Hey up my duck YouTube on a Thursday evening with a history of your club. We are on the second episode of Series 2 of the Championship Clubs, and today we have gone to the West Midlands in a large conurbation, which centre is of course Birmingham of Birmingham City Football Club. They were founded as Small Heath Alliance, you may know that, in 1875. And from 1877, they played their home games at Munt Street. The club turned professional in 1885, and 3 years later became the first football club to become a limited company with a board of directors, under the name of Small Heath FC Limited. From the 1889-90 season, they played in the Football Alliance, which was sort of top tier of non-league football, but which ran alongside the Football League, though. So, in 1892, Small Heath, along with other Alliance teams, were invited to join the newly formed Football League Second Division. They finished as champions, but failed to win promotion via the test match system, as it was back then. There's a few leagues which still use that. I think the Scottish one does. The following season, promotion to the First Division was secured after a second place finish, and they won their test match over Darwin. The club adopted the name Birmingham Football Club in 1905 and moved into their new home at the St Andrews Ground the following year. Matters on the field failed to live up to their surroundings, and Birmingham were relegated in 1908 and were obliged to apply for re-election 2 years later, and remained in the second division until after the First World War. Frank Womack's captaincy and the creativity of the Scottish international playmaker Johnny Crosby contributed much to Birmingham winning their second Division 2 title in 1920-21 season. Womack went on to make 515 appearances. That is an incredible amount. That is actually a club record for an outfielder over a 20-year career. 1920 also saw the debut of a 19-year-old Joe Bradford, who went on to score a club record of 267 445 games. It's unbelievable statistics back then. Never see anything like it again. And he also won 12 caps for England. In 1931, manager Leslie Knighton led the club to their first FA Cup final, which they lost 2-1 to the second division club at West Bromwich Albion, a bit of a local rival as well. Though Birmingham remained in top flight for 18 seasons, they struggled in the league, with much reliance placed on England's goalkeeper Harry Hibbs to make up for the lack of goals. Bradford accepted at the other end. They were finally relegated in 1939, and the last full season before the Football League was abandoned for the duration of the Second World War. The name Birmingham City Football Club was actually adopted in 1943 under Harry Storer, who was appointed manager in 1945. The club had won the Football League South Wartime League and reached the semi-final of the first post-war FA Cup, which was actually won by Derby, just saying. 2 years later, they won their second division, their third second division title, conceding only 24 goals in the 42-game season. Storer's successor, Bob Brocklebank, though unable to stave off relegation in 1950, brought in players who made a major contribution to the club's success of the next decade. When Arthur Turner took over as manager in November 1954, he made them play closer to their potential, and a 5-1 win on the last day of the 1954-55 season as champions of the league. In their first season back in the First Division, Birmingham achieved their highest league finish of 6th place. They also reached the FA Cup final, which they lost 3-1 to Manchester City, in the game which was notable for City's goalkeeper Bert Trautmann playing the last 20 minutes with a broken bone in his neck. You may have heard of that before. The following season, the club lost in the FA Cup semi-final for the third time since the war, and this time were beaten 2-0 by Manchester United's Busby Babes. Go and look at the Manchester United history of your club to find out more. Birmingham became the first English club side to take part in European competition when they played their first group game in the inaugural Intercities Fairs Cup, which was a competition which occurred on 15th of May 1956. There was many more of them to come though. They went on to reach the semi-final of this competition. They drew 4-4 on aggregate with Barcelona, but they lost the replay 2-1. They were the first English club to reach a European final as well, where they lost 4-1 in aggregate to Barcelona again. Well, not the same score, but the same side again. In the 1960 Fairs Cup final. And they lost 4-2 to AS Roma the following year. In the 1961 semi-final, they beat Inter Milan, or Internazionale, home and away. No other English club won a competitive game in the San Siro until Arsenal had managed it more than 40 years later. Gil Merrick's side saved their best form for the cup competitions though opponents in the 1963 League Cup final were local rivals, which were a bit more beefy, this one, of the Aston Villa. They were pre-match favourites, and Birmingham raised their game, and they did win 3-1 on aggregate to lift their first major trophy. In 1965, after 10 years in top flight, they, though, had returned to the second division. Businessman Clifton Coombs took over as chairman in 1965, and he lured Stan Koulis out of retirement to manage the club. You may have heard of him from the Wolverhampton days. I'll see the video for that one as well. And Koulis' team played attractive football, which took them to the semi-finals of the League Cup in 1967 and of the FA Cup in 1968. But league football needed a different approach. Successor produced a team which was playing skillful, aggressive football that won promotion as well as reaching an FA Cup semi-final. 2 years later, the club raised money by selling Bob Latchford to Everton for a British record fee of £350,000. But without his goals, the team squabbled. Sir Alf Ramsey briefly managed the club before Jim Smith, which of course is a Derby legend, took over in 1978. With relegation a certainty, the club sold Trevor Francis to Nottingham Forest, making him the first player to be transferred for a fee of £1 million. Francis scored 133 goals in 329 appearances over his 9 years at Birmingham City. Smith took Birmingham straight back to the First Division, but a poor start to the 1981-82 season saw him replaced by who had just resigned from league champions Aston Villa. That's a bit controversial, that, isn't it? Saunders' team struggled to score goals and were relegated in 1984. They bounced back up, but the last home game of the 1984-85 promotion season against Leeds United was marred by rioting, culminating in the death of a boy when a wall collapsed on him. Very unfortunate and sad. This was on the same day as the Bradford City Stadium fire, and the events at St Andrews form part of the remit of Mr Justice Popplewell's inquiry into safety at sports grounds, which of course was later implemented to make all stadiums at certain levels have seating. The club lacked stability both on and off the field, and Saunders quit after the FA Cup defeat to non-league team Altrincham. Staff were laid off and the training ground was sold. And by 1989, Birmingham were in the third division for the first time in their history. In April 1989, the Krumer brothers, owners of a clothing chain, bought the club. A rapid turnover of managers and the absence of promised investment and a threatened mass refusal of players to renew contracts was relieved only by a victorious trip to Wembley in the Associate Members' Cup, which is now the EFL Cup, I'm pretty certain. Or, no, not EFL Cup, EFL Trophy. Sorry. Terry Cooper delivered promotion, but the collapse of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, BCCI, put the Coomers business into receivership. In November 1992, BCCI's liquidator put up for sale their 84% holding in the football club. The club continued in administration for 4 months until publisher David Sullivan bought it for £700,000. He then installed the 23-year-old Karen Brady as managing director and allowed Cooper money for signings. On the last day of the season, the team avoided relegation back to the third tier. But after a poor start to the 1993-94 season, Cooper was replaced by Barry Fry. The change did not prevent relegation, but Fry's first full season brought promotion back to the second tier as champions, and victory over Carlisle United in the Football League Trophy via Paul Tate's golden goal completed the lower league double. Of course, has been replicated many times. But after one more year, Fry was dismissed to make way for the return of Trevor Francis. Reinforced by players with top-level experience, including Manchester United captain Steve Bruce. Sound familiar, Newcastle fans? Francis's team narrowly missed out on a playoff position in 1998, and 3 years playoff semi-final defeats followed. They reached the 2001 League Cup final against Liverpool at Cardiff's Millennium Stadium. Birmingham equalised in the last minute of normal time, but the match went to a penalty shootout, which Liverpool won. By October 2001, lack of progress had made Francis's position untenable. After a 6-0 League Cup defeat to Manchester City, he left by mutual consent. Bruce's return as manager shook up a stale team. He took them from mid-table to the playoffs and beat Norwich City in penalties in the final to secure promotion to the Premier League. Most inspirational Christophe Dugarry, Birmingham's first top-flight season for 16 years, finished in mid-table. Loan signing at Michael Fossels, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think he's French. Yeah, he is French. 17 league goals he scored and helped Birmingham to finish in the top half finish for the 2003-04 season. But when he was injured, the 2004-05 in July 2005, Chairman David Gold said it was time to start talking about being as good as anyone outside of the top 3 or 4, with the best squad of players for 25 years. Well, debatable. Injuries and loss of form and lack of transfer investment, which is the worst combination and definitely leads you to getting relegated. Saw them relegated, no surprise, in a season whose low light was a 7-0 FA Cup defeat to Liverpool. Pretty disappointing. Jermaine Pennant and Emile Heskey left for record transfer fees, though. Many others were released, but Bruce's amended recruitment strategy, combining free transfer experience with young, hungry players and shrewd exploitation of the loan market, brought automatic promotion at the end of the season, which had included calls for his head. He always seems to get called for his head, but he seems to do well with clubs which are financially unstable. So I believe Steve Bruce is doing a good job with Newcastle, by the way, just for on record. In July 2007, Hong Kong-based businessman Carson Yueng bought 29.9% of the shares in the club, making him the big control in the future. Uncertain as to his future under possible new owners, Bruce left in mid-season. His successor was Scotland national team manager Alex McLeish, was unable to stave off relegation, but achieved promotion back to the Premier League at first attempt. Seems a bit yo-yo team this, doesn't it? Yueng's company completed a takeover in 2009, and the team finished in 9th place, which was their highest position for 51 years. In 2011, they combined a second League Cup, defeating favourites Arsenal 2-1 with back to the second tier, after which McLeish resigned to join Aston Villa. So they were in the Europa League, but also in the Championship. So I don't think that's happened since, but it may have done. Please inform me in the comment section below if it has happened before. Birmingham narrowly failed to reach the knockout rounds of the Europa League and the playoff final. With the club in financial turmoil and under transfer embargo, manager Chris Hughton left, and under Lee Clark, Birmingham twice retained their divisional status. albeit through Paul Caddis's 93rd minute goal in the last match of the 2013-14 season to avoid relegation on goal difference. But the continued poor form saw him dismissed in October 2014. Gary Rowett stabilised the team and led them to 2 years before being controversially dismissed by the new owners of the Trillion Trophy Asia in favour of the pedigree of Gianfranco Zola. I don't really know how he got attracted to Birmingham, really. Who would aid the club's strategic long-term view to take the club in a new direction. 2 wins from 24 matches under Zola left Birmingham needing 2 wins from the last 3 games to stay up. Wasn't much of a pedigree manager, was he? Which they achieved under the management of Harry Redknapp. Redknapp lasted another month and his former assistant Steve Cotterill 5 months, leaving successor Gary Monk. Another ultimately successful relegation battle. Despite budgetary restrictions and a 9-point deduction for breaches of the league's profitability and sustainability rules, the team finished 17th in 2018-19 season. However, Monk was sacked in June after a conflict with the board. He was succeeded by his assistant Clotet, initially in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The club once again avoided relegation, despite a 14-match winless run at the end of the season, and the threat of a further points deduction. Academy product Jude Bellingham was sold to Borussia Dortmund in the summer for a club record deal reported to be worth up to £30 million, and Clotet departed for Iota Karanka being appointed as his replacement. So Birmingham City fans aren't clearly very happy at the moment with their club in a very serious relegation battle. But I hope you very much enjoyed that video. Please subscribe for a bit of regular footballing content. We're doing a bit of international stuff next week on Sunday. So at the end of the week. Well, it depends on who you count as a new week, to be fair. Some people do count some days as the start of the week. I don't, but and that will be all the best players from North America. This new mini-series leading up to the March international break. Next week, I will be doing a history of your club for Blackburn Rovers. So, see you then.